Living in Seattle for a lifetime and our connection to nature and the outdoors makes you very aware that people here value the world around them. And homes have a large impact, and so our clients have sought out ways to build better homes that lessen their overall impact. One of those designations is called a passive house.
Passive house is actually something that I learned very early on in architecture school, and we call that lowercase p passive. And that's kind of fundamentals of how you orient your windows and how you can do very basic things in the planning of a building, set you up for harvesting energy from the sun and using that to heat your home, but also not overheating.
Unlike things like LEED or Built Green, passive house is like your house has to actually perform and be tested and verified by a third party to perform at a certain level. It's not just a checklist that you have to check off a bunch of boxes. It holds your builder to more accountability.
So we're building a passive house here in beautiful Wallingford. A couple of the key features to point out that are different from more traditional houses is we have thicker wall assemblies for more insulation. They're also framing the walls where the studs are every 24 inches instead of a more typical 16 inches. That reduces the amount of lumber going into the house, which is also a kind of a green building benefit. Lighter house, more insulation, and better energy efficiency.
Passive house is actually a fully modeled house. We build a computer model of your house as planned with insulation and air sealing and the proper window details, the heat sources, the glazing on your windows, and the orientation to the sun on its lot relative to the surrounding trees. And we use that model to make sure that the passive house meets the required standards to operate efficiently, to be comfortable, and have fantastic indoor air quality.
There's a bunch of these flexible tubes going all throughout the house to supply both exhaust and fresh air in and out of the house and to the rooms as appropriate.
Comfort and being green are directly related. So if we build a building that's comfortable, it's probably not losing heat or having air infiltration issues. We're going to produce the same building that achieves both metrics, and it will be a more quality building in terms of durability as well.
It is not an easy standard to meet, both in planning and the construction.
Air control and reduced leakage is a big focus of that. So we want to create a very tight building envelope. So the overall purpose is we want to know where we need to tie in any penetrations into the buildings.
From the planning standpoint, this is what architects love about passive house, is because a lot of the very big, basic elements happen while we're making the drawings and while it's on our desk. The biggest thing is the windows and the glazing, like where you put your doors and your windows and which ones you choose to put shades above. If you put a shade above a window, in the wintertime that sun is going to dip below the shade and all of that sunlight is going to come in the room. In the summertime, when the sun is higher in the sky, those shades are going to keep that sunlight from coming in the room and overheating the space.
The insulation of a house is often like a chain, and it's only as strong as its weakest link. And the weakest link is windows. And so that's the number one area to try and improve.
Dude, that's money. That's what we're going to go with.
Passive houses typically have a triple pane window, which basically creates two air barriers to reduce the transmittance of heat or cooling from the outside to the inside, keeping what temperature you want inside the house.
The goal is using as little energy as possible. You're balancing heating demands in the winter and cooling demands in the summer. Heat generated by your appliances, cooking, showering, being, people generate heat. During 9 months out of the year, they generate about 75 or 80% of the heat that you need for a passive house.
Basically, passive house is like a better blanket. And it's a better blanket because of the insulation that it has and the way in which the insulation is installed. So standard batt insulation, you can lose 50% of its value by simply having an outlet done poorly. So in passive houses, we've made the home airtight, which basically stops air movement, and then we've given it a really good blanket, which makes it warm.
So we're doing our blower door test. We're hovering right around 180 CFM of air leakage for the total envelope. So this translates into a very good blower door number. We are 10 times tighter than what the future building code will be at 3 air changes per hour, 200 CFM below our threshold of air tightness. So we've done a great job here in sealing every detail and then finding small leaks and sealing those up even further.
I think this home needs to be the future. It's not a question of if it will be, I think it's a requirement. I think if we want to move the needle at all with climate change, we need to address CO2 production in energy sector and specifically residential and building because it contributes a huge portion to greenhouse gas. We need to find a way to net zero, and I feel like for buildings, passive house is one very effective way at getting there. It's definitely the future. This is going to be the standard going forward.
We're looking at producing buildings that are going to stand the test of time. The whole building community has become aware of our role in climate change, and there's a lot of designs out there that are going to reduce energy in buildings. However, some of those designs intrinsically involve a high carbon footprint materials. Over 100 years, maybe it pencils out, but we don't have 100 years to solve the climate crisis. Looking at low carbon options is our best way to have a lasting impact from the start.
I think someone should partner with Carlisle to build their home because we have a crew that loves doing what they do, and that comes through in the quality of their craftsmanship.
Carlisle's got great attention to detail, and we know to ask for passive house and know that that serves not only our desire to build green, but then also acts as kind of a gatekeeper, a checkpoint for quality. We can definitely say like success. You know, it's like this is great. They crushed it.